Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com with Dan.
Hi guys.
And we're gonna have. What's that?
What are you laughing at?
I didn't laugh.
Okay.
We're gonna have a little bit of a 40K discussion on something that came out in the latest FAQ. This is version 1.3. Came out February 13th. So in case you're watching this video a long time from now, maybe this has already been resolved. But this is, we had a video a while back talking about how 6th edition 40K had a lot of ambiguous rules. And that's fine. It's just a game. It's allowed to have some mistakes. So we want to discuss a new one, a new ambiguity that they've introduced. And why don't you go ahead and read the question.
Page number 3 at the bottom right hand corner. Question. When making a shooting attack against a unit, can wounds from the wound pool be allocated to models that were not within range
Of any.
No, it doesn't say of.
Oh. Sorry, keep going.
Not within range of any of the shooting models when 2 hit rolls were made. Example, half targeted models were in shooting models range, half are not. Answer.
Actually, they put IE, which is not example.
No?
That means like in other words. They should have put example. A lot of people put IE when that's not actually. It's Latin, and it actually means in other words. Doesn't matter. The answer is no.
9.
Okay, so let's talk about this really simply. What is the intent? Let's say I have a group of termagants. Mm-hmm. They have 12-inch range weapons. And let's say there's 30 of them firing at a group of orc boys. Because they like to fire at orc boys. And let's say at the time of rolling, you have a big group of 30 orc boys. So at the time of rolling, the termagants out front can have range to, let's say, 20 of them. All right? And let's say the termagants get really lucky and they make all their hits and all their wounds. So they actually get 30 wounds. I know it's not going to happen. Unless they're with devourers, in which case they'll get lots. It doesn't matter though. Let's just say that they actually manage to do 30 wounds. And then you fail 30 of your armor saves.
I probably wouldn't have any armor saves.
Yeah. Oh no, this is AP5. It's AP5, that's right. No cover save either. So in this case, normally that would have killed 30 of your boys, but because only 20 of them were in range at the time of shooting, then only 20 of them would die. Mm-hmm. And you would determine that by the termagants out front. So basically how many of the guys in front, because it says of any of the shooting models.
Right.
Okay, pretty straightforward. Where the confusion comes in
is when there's multiple weapons with multiple ranges in the same unit.
Yes, or even more confusing with rapid fire weapons, which we'll get into in a second. Let's make this really simple. You have a group of orc boys. What's the range of their weapons? 18 inches?
Yep.
And let's say there's one guy in there.
With a big shooter.
With a big shooter, which
36 inches.
36 inches, okay. And then let's say they fire at a group of whatever, and only one of that group of whatever was within the 18-inch range. But since you have one of the guys who was 36-inch range, you would measure his range, and then all of a sudden, all of those guys could be killed by those 18-inch range weapons.
And the thing is, with pre-measuring, you could walk up and like arc perfectly 18 inches away, everybody, because if you don't want to get charged, you want to keep 8 inches away, and then just be perfect, and then just shoot and hit the one guy. But then does the wounds extend because the one guy has a longer range weapon?
Exactly, and that is the question. And the answer is pretty simple. We don't know.
Is it? Oh, yes, there we go.
And we're going to try to find that out right now. We're going to talk about the specific wording of this. Now, the problem with this is we're going to look at the specific wording of this question to try to find our answer, but we know that Games Workshop doesn't write specifically. And I'm not saying that, it's just that's just the way it is. They don't write specifically. So like if you've read War Machine rules, then you could kind of dissect it and figure out exactly what it means. But with Warhammer 40K, you can do that and then find out that, no, that wasn't their intent. They FAQ it later on and like, nope, not that way. And you're like, oh, that's not what you said before, but whatever. So we're going to try to come up with a solution. I'll tell you right now, what I think it should be is that you roll each different range weapon separately. Just like you would with different AP weapons and different strength weapons. That's what I feel they intended. So I'm just going to put that out there right now.
I'm going to put up there that I don't care. I want to abuse the rule and shoot further.
Exactly. Like in your case.
I don't like that rule. I don't like the ruling at all.
No.
And so I'm going to abuse it. I'm going to try to understand it so it's more what I think it should be.
Well, see, in Dan's case, one of his favorite tactics, or one of your favorite tactics with your orcs is to bring a burna wagon. And that is an open top wagon, battle wagon, full of burna boys. And this is incredibly effective because he drives up and let's say I have a huge group of Hormagaunts, he puts down one flamer, or one flame template. Because it's open-topped, you can put it anywhere you want. He covers 4 of them, and then multiplies that by 11, because there's 11 guys inside. Even though there's only like maybe half a dozen of these Hormagaunts in range, he's able to inflict or hit 44 times automatically, which basically will destroy the unit.
There's 3 to wound, no armor saves, or cover saves.
Exactly. Whereas with the new ruling, if that's all you had, we're assuming that there's the range is the range of the template.
And that can only hurt up to, it's about 8 inches to an end of a permanent template of that many guns. So it's normally, because you want to avoid it, that's probably only like 10 guys at the most.
Yeah, whereas before you'd be killing the entire squad of 30 Hormagaunts, now you'll kill a third of them, maybe a half of them if I'm really packed together. But then you could argue, well, I'll just stick one big mech into that group who has, just give him a big shooter for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
And that extends the range of all your flamers to 36 inches because he fires...
Well, it extends the potential wound pool allocation to 36 inches.
Right, but essentially
Yeah.
it makes the weapon's 36-inch range. And then you could kill all the Hormagaunts. So you can see how that doesn't feel right, because like just by adding that big mech, all of a sudden these guys could do something they couldn't before. And that's where I'm just like, I don't think that's what they intended. And I would want that one rolled separately from the rest. But
let's read the wound pool.
let's read because it does refer to page 15.
Yeah, it says page 15, and this is the wound pool.
Okay, so allocating wounds. To determine how many casualties are caused, you will need to allocate the wounds caused and resolve any saving throws the target is allowed. For now, we're going to assume that all the models have the same saving throw, blah, blah, blah.
Well, back here, the first
Yeah,
paragraph.
okay, the wound pool. Finally, total up the number of wounds you have caused. Keep the dice that have scored wounds and create a pool, where each dice represents a wound. If there are wounds with different AP strengths, AP values, or special rules, keep them separated into groups of wounds in the pool. So this goes in your favor.
All right.
Because we're not creating more than one pool.
There's groups of wounds
in one pool. It's like if you're in a pool with a group of friends, but you move to one side and another group. They're all in the same pool. They're just different groups.
Little cliques.
Yeah.
You know, the deep end click and the shallow end.
Yeah, and then like somebody like pees, and then he becomes his own pool or his own group. If all the wounds are the same, the wound pool will consist of only one group. Okay, so that right there definitely favors your argument. Now let's go back one more step and talk about how we create that pool.
Sure.
Let's use the Burn-A-Boy example. I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Because you've got templates which don't even roll to hit. And then you've got your big shooter. Let's just say you have a big shoot in there, just for the ease of everything. Right. So which models can fire? All the models in the unit must shoot at the same target unit. If a model cannot shoot at the same target, then it can't shoot. The player can choose not to fire. That's fine. Of course, you wouldn't want to choose that.
Nope.
This must be declared before rolling to hit, as all the models in the unit fire at the same time, regardless of whether or not all the dice are rolled together. Okay? And we know this, but we're kind of looking for the wording to answer this question. Roll to hit. To determine if a fire model has hit its range, roll a d6 for each shot that is in range. Most models only get to fire one shot, blah, blah, blah. The dice rolled into the hit is according to the Blizzard scale. Here's the chart. Blah, 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 moving, shooting, snapshots, run.
And then rolling to wound.
Rolling to wound just talks about comparing the strength to the toughness. But multiple toughness values, we already know that.
Majority.
Mixed saves, we already understand that. Well, as much as you can. Out of range, as long as the model was in range of the enemy when to hit rolls were made, he is considered to be in range for the duration of the shooting attack, even if the removal of casualties means that the closest model now lies out of range. Okay, now here's our first clue. I think this gives us a little clue. Out of range, let me reread that.
Okay.
As long as a model was in range of the enemy, ambiguous, when to hit rolls were made, he is considered to be in range for the duration of the shooting attack, even if the removal of casualties means that the closest model now lies out of range. When would that even be a case?
I don't even know.
Because if you combine it with this, then you can't kill the thing that's out of range.
Right.
Unless, well, let's look at it this way. Let's make a very simple example. Let's say you have a squad of 2 guys, one with a 12-inch weapon and one with a 36-inch weapon, firing at a squad of 2 guys, one within 12 inches and one outside of 12 inches.
So the 36-inch hits first.
Let's say that you choose to have the 36. Maybe there's different APs, so you get to choose the order when there's different
Right.
APs. So you say the 36-inch one kills first, and now the 12-inch one was in range, but the enemy, as long as a model was in range of the enemy. So the next second one is the next model was not in range of that enemy, but he is in range of the enemy. Wow.
So, okay, so there's a good argument there. It says as long as a model was in range, you can allocate the wound to them. But if you're flaming a bunch, the further models were not in range of.
But it says the
that.
enemy. It doesn't say the enemy for which he is being wounded.
That's true.
So that kind of goes in your favor there.
That is more ambiguous.
Out of sights, if no models in the firing unit can see a particular model, then the wounds cannot be allocated to it. And then wounds in the pool are lost and the shooting attack ends. Yeah, I already know that. Fast dice. Yeah, that's fine. I don't know. I think so far it's weighing in your favor for rules as written, because we found that there's always only one wound pool. Okay, let's look for one. I'm gonna try to give myself one more chance to be right here. Let's look at templates. Template weapons, 52. And of course, we want your feedback. Go ahead and start arguing amongst yourselves below, and it's okay to argue. I think.
And we should check out rapid fire weapons as well.
Oh, rapid fire weapons. Oh, jeez, that's going to be confusing.
We should check it out.
Well, that's right here.
Template.
That's all right here, anyways. Template weapons shoot. Okay, blah blah blah. Are indicated by instead of rolling to hit, simply place the template so that its narrow end is touching the base of the fire model. Yeah, we already know that. Any models fully or partially in a template are hit. They ignores cover. Wounds inflicted by template weapons are allocated following the normal rules. So it doesn't really say anything. Basically,
That's just some. See now, it says instead of rolling the hit or at the time of rolling the hit.
instead of rolling to hit.
Because this says when the to hit rolls were made.
Right, and instead of rolling to hit, you place a template, and that determines the number of hits.
Yeah, so that's
So it's kind of the same thing.
yeah.
Okay. So that doesn't really give us any clues. It doesn't add or take away from either of our
Right.
sides. Okay, what about blast? Now here's the one I think is really confusing. Besides, we'll get into rapid fire. That's even crazier. Oh, where's blast? Oh yeah, that's not in here. That's
Then the special rules.
yes,
Page 32, starting page 32.
probably 33. You're so smart. Blast. When firing a blast weapon, models do not roll to hit. Instead, just pick one enemy model visible to the fire and place a relevant blast marker with its hole entirely over the base of the target model. See the diagram. That's fine. We already know that. Yada, yada, yada. Yada, yada, yada.
Well, I never knew that before. The hole has to be entirely over the base.
Oh, yeah.
So you have some leeway. You don't have to be directly over. You can
Well, that's
adjust that a
true.
little bit.
I guess with monstrous creatures,
Especially
that'll...
with monstrous creatures, you can put over the edge.
That's true. I always thought it was center. Well, I always played it as center.
Right.
Okay, note that, okay, here's, note that it is possible and absolutely fine for a shot to scatter beyond the weapon's maximum or minimum range and line of sight. Blast weapons, let's keep going, but what we're going to find is that blast weapons can kill things outside of their range. Okay, this is where it's going to get confusing. Because in here it says when to hit rolls were made. But still, I'll present what I'm talking about in just a second. This represents the chance of ricochets. I don't care. Okay, in these cases, hits are worked out as normal and can hit and wound units out of range and line of sight, or even your own units. If the shot scatters so that the hole in the center of the marker is beyond the table's edge, the shot is complete miss. Okay, so a blast weapon hits and wounds things beyond its maximum range, and can even kill things out of line of sight.
Right.
Makes perfect sense, right? But then, if we're rolling the blast weapon when to hit rolls are made, and we're placing a template when to hit rolls are made, what's the difference? Why does a blast weapon not get factored into this, and yet a template would? So here's the question. Let's say you had two guys, a 12-inch and a guy with a 48-inch blast range. Actually, no. How can we make this so that it actually comes up with the situation?
Maybe 24 and 48.
Well, yeah, sure, if that's what you want to do.
If there are bolters and
Well, wait, I'm not saying it's
Heavy
bolter. I'm just
squad.
saying any kind of weapon. And so you fire. Let's say you have 10 guys. One who has the 48-inch missile launcher, and the rest of them are Space Marines with their bolters. And let's say that there's one guy 24 inches away, and then the rest of them are beyond 24. And so these guys all fire their bolters, but they only have 24-inch. But he fires his frag missile, and let's say it scatters beyond his maximum range and kills somebody. And then these guys fire. Do they get to have a 48-inch range, threat range?
because it scatters at the time you roll to hit
Right. But
at the same time.
But
simultaneously.
this blast weapon ignores this FAQ. And so if the blast weapon ignores the FAQ, then I would argue that the intent of this was not to include
blast and templates.
blast and templates. Or even its intent was actually to have different ranges handled at different times. It just kind of speaks that way because that situation doesn't make any sense. They contradict. This can kill things beyond its range, and that says, no, it can't. But it never rolled to hit. But we already said that. It's rolled instead of rolling to hit. So right here, where does it say that? Model do not roll to hit. Instead, this is what you do, just like the flamer. Doesn't roll to hit, instead is placed. So you either make the argument that the blast weapons rules are now replaced by the FAQ, or that a template weapon in your burning wagon can't kill beyond its range. Or that your template weapon ignores this FAQ altogether because it doesn't roll to hit. And so it could kill things out of its maximum range. So it could go, that, my argument there just kind of gave each of us a point. That's not really helpful.
Can wounds from the wound pool be allocated to models that were not within range of any of the
Okay,
shooting models?
here's a question. Did these wounds get put into the wound pool?
Yes.
Do they? Then, but it kills things beyond the range. And we just said here that wounds in the wound pool can't kill things beyond the range. So this must not be put into the wound pool. It must be resolved on its own.
But it says wounds are allocated.
Right,
And wounds are allocated from the wound pool.
right. But this one can kill things beyond the range, and this one says that if it's in the wound pool, they cannot. So which is it? Does it get resolved on its own? Because I think what it's saying here is you'll kill the closest guys first.
Right.
So, okay,
But you can potentially kill guys further away.
well, let's say you're firing your bolters and that frag missile. Guess what? They have the same strength and the same AP. Okay? So according to the wound pool rules, you group things by strengths and APs. So these would get pushed together with the other ones.
So all rolled at the same time,
Right.
and then
But-
you would kill to the point of.
Right, because that blast weapon can kill outside the maximum range.
So how
but,
many
but it's
people
mixed
does
in
the
there.
blast-
But it's mixed in there with all the
Right.
bolters who can't.
So I would suppose that you would kill all the way up to the blast.
48 inches.
Right.
Or the 51 inches or 52 inches. Do those bolters then get more than 48 inches because the blast scattered backwards? You can see how that doesn't logically make any sense.
If it was all part of the same squad,
Yes.
some person was just trollololololol and has this big Congo line of orcs or gons. I would say yes for simplicity's sake.
Right, of course.
It just seems to just fit in with everything else. But
And I'd say no for simplicity's sake, that each of them should be rolled on their own.
But if they hit different units, then they're rolled on their own. Because
Yeah, okay, there's another thing. That blast scatters off and hits another unit.
then the blast.
Does that wound pool go together? We have a separate wound pool now.
We do have separate wound pools.
Yeah, but it never talks
But
about
that
making...
doesn't solve the problem.
That doesn't matter. We only ever talk about one wound pool. So we just created a situation where we
Back to the
actually...
wound pool.
We just created a situation where we create... Remember, the wound pool, this is all written in the area where it's not talking about blasts. So it's not going to talk about all that kind of stuff yet. Wound pool, right here. Finally, total up the number of wounds you have caused. Keep the dice out of scored wounds and create a pool. And then you separate groups in the pool according to strengths and APs. So if I hit another group, does that all get put in the same wound pool and kill the other group? Obviously not. And so they get their own wound pool.
Right.
So now we've just...
it's a different group in the wound pool.
No. If there are wounds with different strengths, AP values, or special rules, keep them separated.
Into groups.
Right.
So there's one group in the wound pool that can only hurt that squad.
But what if the
One
blast
wound pool.
partially covered...
Both?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see the argument is pretty
But
weak
then there's
there.
two separate groups within the group.
Right, exactly. This one can only hurt guys within the scattered blast. And
But
this
that
one
can be generally like, I think everyone can accept that though.
What?
That if the blast goes over 2 different squads, then
You create a second wound pool.
Only wounds from the generated from the actual blast can hurt the separate squad.
But why? It doesn't say that. Hey, you can't make an argument against. You're trying to argue rules as written here, right? So you can't come up with something that's an intent. It's either one or the other, right? Oh, I love rules as written versus rules as intended, especially when Games Workshop writes them, because it's hard to prove either of them.
I understand. Let's take a jaunt over to the rapid fire.
Okay, rapid fire. Let's talk about an even more confusing thing. And okay, let me clarify. We
We've been
both
going for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I know. We both agree that it's a little ambiguous. That somebody could probably get firmly arguing in their side, another can firmly argue in their side, but you have to kind of agree at this point that it needs another FAQ. So, anyways, but that's just kind of Games Workshop. So, what I would do in reality is agree to a house rule, or dice it.
Yeah. Roll.
What you say, what yours? So you're going out there with your burner wagon, and then I say no, it doesn't do that, and you say yes, it does. On a 4+, your burner wagon is awesome, and on a 1, 2, 3, it's nerfed. And that's actually how you do. You're supposed to resolve a lot of circumstances with dice, and so you can't. Rules will never be 100% complete. So okay, rapid fire weapons. This is the interesting one. Although this one might not seem so crazy after talking about the blast.
Maybe not.
So we already know basically rapid fire. Let's just use a bolter. If you're within 12 inches, you can fire twice, and if you're within 24, or outside that 12 within 24, you can fire once. And each model can actually choose to do it separately. So if you have 4 Space Marines and 2 of them are within 12 inches and 2 of them are outside of that, then the front 2 can fire twice and the other 2 can fire once, which is nice. That was different than the way it used to work. So you get 6 shots in total. And so are you effectively reducing the range of the guys in front to 12 inches? Or
are you just shooting twice?
Or are you just shooting twice because they happen to have a target within 12 inches? So a model armed with a rapid fire weapon can fire 2 shots at a target up to half the weapon's maximum range away. Alternatively, it can instead fire 1 shot at a target over half the weapon's range away up to the weapon's maximum range. If a unit shooting rapid fire weapons is found to be partially within half range of the target, the firing models within half range fire 2 shots, while those further away fire 1.
So it doesn't say that you reduce the range of the gun.
No, it doesn't.
It just says you get to it. So
that one seems more simple.
Yeah.
But
silly.
It's silly because if all of them fire rapid fire,
right,
and there's only one model within 12 inches, then all of a sudden they're able to be like, hey, there's only one guy in 12 inches. Use him as your rangefinder. Ah! And all the other bullets go past him and hit everybody else because they're firing really fast, right? So you can
Space Marines OP again.
Yeah, you burn it. Yeah, what's up with that? Burner wagons get nerfed, and then Space Marines get they don't.
Tau got it too though. So Tau needed it though.
Because of their rapid fire?
Well, they have rapid fire, right? So we're talking about rapid fire.
Yeah, but in this case, I would say that that's fine. That even the 12-inch ones could fire up to, like, it doesn't seem to contradict what it's saying.
So that seems clear. Seems a bit silly,
but still,
clear.
And I can only agree with that one because it doesn't actually change the range of their weapons. So the range of the weapons is still 24 inches. But I see. Okay, here's what I would do, and I think I said this at the beginning, but I'll say it again. My conclusion would be a house rule that you create a wound pool for every range. As simple as that. You do template separately, blast separately. It's still considered all of it happening at the same time, so you have to resolve them all before moving on. And it'll all kind of go together. That's why you want to make sure you do them in the right order. Like you want to do your blast first, so it has a maximum number of targets. And you want to do your templates next, so they have the maximum number of targets. And so on and so forth. I don't think it'll happen too often that we'll get this kind of weird craziness, but there are examples like the burner wagon with the big mech with big shooter. Or Space Marines are going to predominantly have problems with that because you stick one missile launcher in there.
Right.
And voila, bolters are 48-inch range.
Well, even me learning Eldar, I dropped in with a bunch of swooping hawks, and they had, their 24-inch range, but my Optarch had a 36-inch range weapon.
Yeah.
And I blasted a bunch of gaunts away.
Yeah.
But
Even if they're beyond the 24
But they were
inch.
just 24 inches away.
Yeah, so you have to start off in range, obviously.
So it would have been a difference of killing 3 gaunts, or killing the whole squad of gaunts, and them not assaulting me next turn, or getting so close.
Yeah.
And it would have made a huge impact on the game.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you agree with me? Or do you agree with Dan?
It's hard because
Well, the template. Okay.
part of my brain goes, I can see what you're arguing, and I can see how that makes sense. But then
That's
the
not
other
what's
part
written
of
down.
me says it's kind of written down differently.
Okay.
And it helps me a lot to agree with this how it's written down.
Of
normally.
course. But now let's just conclude this as going back to our original dilemma, which is the burn-a-wagon. Do you still think that the wounds from the templates would be able to kill beyond their range? Because we talked about the blast weapon being able to kill things out of its maximum range, so it feels like the blast weapon should be treated separately because the FAQ would otherwise ignore it.
Well, when I first read the FAQ, I thought no. But how long have we been talking? 25? So 30 minutes ago, I thought, wait, there might be a loophole. And so I really can't say. It's like I want it to be true, right? And like part of my brain argument goes, yes, you can allocate the wounds further. But then the other part of my brain says, no, you can't. And I don't know which is predominantly stronger right now. And until I just won't bring Burness for a while until someone else figures it out. I just don't want to deal with it.
Well, that's the problem. Now that we've talked about this, you bring it, and if you have the rule in your favor, being the MiniWarGamer, of course.
Right. If you're intending it, right?
Yeah.
If it's like, okay, and you're thinking it's going to work this way,
Yeah.
then you go up, you try to do it, roll the 4 plus.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you're favoring yourself when you're the one doing the battle report. Like, for example,
Right.
we had a discussion about the swarms with instant death and blast weapons. Stupid phone. I'm gonna turn it off. Okay, so swarms with instant death and blast weapons. I argued that you don't double and then instant death, that you either instant death or you double. And I still believe that, but in the end, I ruled against myself for when I play battle reports, so I don't get people screaming at me saying that I'm abusing the rules and all that. So you might want to consider doing the same thing for your burn-a-wagon. Not that you bring it hardly
No,
anymore.
why? People love me. They'll agree with anything I say.
What do you agree with that? Okay, this has gone on long enough. I think we've both presented our argument. I do agree that rules as written is really confusing and tends to favor your side more, except for the burn-a-wagon. I think the templates and the blasts are really up for grabs.
It's with the rolling to hit
Yeah.
plus all the other, it's just when you put everything together, it's just it's not clear at
Yeah.
all.
Do you think their intent was to allow the templates to be able to hit beyond the 8 inches? Putting
know.
aside rules as written, let's spend the last 30 seconds. Haha.
I can't think of anything on the spot, but I know where there's been times where we thought, okay, Games Workshop's intent was clearly this. And then they come with that FAQ/errata, and we're like, oh. No,
of course,
it wasn't.
of course. Sometimes
And it goes
they
completely opposite way.
But what do you think it's
And
their
so-
intent though?
so I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't say. It's unfortunately I have to stay
Neutral?
gray.
That's boring.
I know. I very dislike when I make this, I'm going to argue this way, and then if I'm right, then I have to like stick it in other people's faces. It's my personality. Or if I'm wrong, then I feel ashamed of myself. So, not that much. No. Okay, I'm rambling. But it's just when something is unsure, what's the point of arguing wholehearted in the one thing that you don't actually know?
Of course. I'm not talking about arguing. I'm just saying, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think their intent was that? Yes or no? Do you think their intent was allow the burners to go beyond the maximum 8-inch range? Yes or no? You have to answer one or the other. It's no maybe. Do you think? You have to have an opinion. Whether you're right or wrong doesn't matter. Do you think that's what they intended? By sticking one big mech with a big shooter, that all of a sudden your templates could kill 36-inch range? Yes or no?
No.
That's what I thought!
But I wanted to be true.
Of course you do. All right, 30 minutes. We're good. I still want your thoughts, of course, so go ahead and post in the comments below. And this is Matthew and Dan from MiniWarGaming. Happy wargaming.
Happy wargaming.